The Fairy Nurse. There was once a little farmer and his wife living near Coolgarrow. They had 3 children, and my story happened to the youngest as a baby. The wife was a good wife enough, but her mind was all her family and her farm, and she hardly ever went without her knees falling asleep, and she thought that the time spent in the chapel was twice as long as it need be. So, friends, she let her man and her 2 children go before her one day to Mass, while she called to consult a ferryman about the disorder of one of her cows. She was late at the chapel, and was very sorry the day after, for her husband was in grief about it, and she was very fond of him. Late that night he awakened by the cries of the children calling out, "Mother! Mother!" When he sat up and rubbed his eyes, there was no wife by his side, and when he asked the little ones what had become of their mother, they said they saw the room full of little nice men and women dressed in white and green and red, and their mother in the middle of them, going out by the door as if she was walking in her sleep. Out he ran and searched everywhere around the house, but neither tale nor tidings did he find of her for many days. Well, the poor man was miserable enough, for he was fond of his woman as she was of him. It used to bring salt tears down his cheeks to see his poor children neglected and dirty, as they often were, and they'd been bad enough only for a kind neighbor that used to look in when she could spare time. The infant was away with a nurse. About 6 weeks after, just as he was going out to his work in one of his morning, a neighbor that used to mind women when they were ill came up to him and kept step by step with him in the field, and this is what she told him. "Just as I was falling asleep last night, I heard a horse's tramp on the grass and a knock at the door, and there, when I came out, was a fine-looking dark man mounted on a black horse, and he told me to get ready with all haste, for a lady was in great want of me. As soon as I put my cloak and things, he took me by the hand, and I was sitting behind him before I felt myself stirring. 'Where are we going, sir?' says I. 'You'll soon know,' he says, and he drew his fingers across my eyes, and not a ray could I see. I kept a tight grip of him, and I little knew whether he was going backwards or forwards, or how long we were about it, till my hands was taken again, and I felt the ground under me. The fingers went away across my other eyes, and there we were before a castle door, and then we went through a big hall and great rooms, all painted with fine green colors, with red and gold bands and ornaments, and the finest carpets and chairs and tables and window curtains, and grand ladies and gentlemen walking about. At last we came to a bedroom, with a beautiful lady in bed, with a fine bouncing boy beside her. The lady clapped her hands, and in came the dark man, and he kissed the bear and the baby, and praised me, gave me a bottle of green ointment to rub on the child all over. Well, the child I rubbed, and sure enough, but my right eye began to smart. When I put my finger up and gave it a rub, and when I stared, for never in the life of me I was so frightened. The beautiful room was a rough, big cave, and water oozing over the edges of the stones into the clay, and the lady and the lord and children wise and bitterly poverty old creatures, nothing but skin and bone, and the rich dresses were old rags. I didn't let on that I found any difference. After a bit, says the dark man, 'Go before me and to the hall door. I shall be with you in a few moments, and see you home safe.' Well, just as I turned out to the outside cave, who should I see walking near the door but poor Molly. She looked around all terrified, and says to me in a whisper, 'I'm brought here to nurse a child of the king and queen of the fairies. There is one chance of saving me. All the court will pass the cross near Temple Shabu on Friday night, on a visit from the fairies of old Ross. If John can catch me by the hand or cloak when I ride by, and has the courage not to let go his grip, I'll be safe. Here's the king. Don't open your mouth to answer. I saw what happened with the ointment.' The dark man didn't once cast his eye towards Molly, and he seemed to have no suspicion of me. When we came out, looked at me, and where do you think we were but the dyke of the Rath of Cormorant? I was on the horse again, which was nothing but a big ragweed, and I was in dread every minute I'd fall off, but nothing happened till I found myself in my own cabin. The king slipped 5 guineas into my hand as soon as I was on the ground, and thanked me, and bade me good night. I hope I'll never see his face again. I got into bed and couldn't sleep for a long time. When I examined the 5 guineas this morning that I left on the table drawer last night, I found 5 withered leaves of oak. Well, bad luck to the giver.
Well, you may think all the fright and joy and the grief of the poor man was in when the woman finished her story. They talked and they talked, but we didn't mind you that they said till Friday night came, when both were standing where the mountain road crosses the one going to the Ross. There they stood, looking towards the bridge of Thaler, in the dead of night, with a little moonlight shining over the Kilmachengan. One she gave a start, and by this and that, he says, here they come, bridles jingling and feathers tossing. He looked, but could see nothing, and she stood trembling, and her eyes wide open, and looking down the way toward to Balincola.
I see your wife, she says, riding just on the outside as to rub against us. We'll walk on quietly, as if we expect nothing. But when you are passing, I'll give you a shove. If you don't do your duty then, woe be with you.
Well, they walked on easy, and the poor hearts beating in both their breasts, though he could see nothing. He heard a faint jingle and trampling and rustling. Unless he got the push that she had promised, he spread his arms out, and there was his wife's waist within them, and he could see her plain, but such a hullabaloo rose as they were an earthquake, and he found himself surrounded by horrible-looking things, roaring at him and striving to pull his wife away. But he made the sign of the cross and bid them be gone in God's name, and held his wife as if it was iron his arms were made of. But in one moment everything was silent as the grave, and the poor woman lying in faint in his arms of her husband and her good neighbor. Well, all in good time she was minding her family and her business again, and I'll go bail. After the fright she got, she spent more time on her knees, and avoided ferrymen all the days of the week, and particularly on Sunday. It is hard to have anything to do with the good people without getting a mark from them. The brave nurse didn't escape no more than another. She was on Thursday at the market at Edensworthy, when what did she see walking among the tubs of butter but the dark man, very hungry looking, taking a scoop out of the tub and one of the other.
Oh, sir, she says, very foolish, I hope your lady is well and the baby.
Pretty well, thank you, says he, rather frightened-like. How do I look in this new suit? He says to her. I can't see you plain at all, sir. Well, now, says he, getting round her to the other side. Mush indeed, sir, your coat looks no better than the withered dock leaf. Maybe then, he says, it will be different now. And he struck the eye next to him with a switch. Friends, she never saw a glimmer again after that one till the day of her death.